to order. We are in a remote, in accordance with the open meeting law as modified by the governor. This will be by remote participation. It'll be on Zoom, and we will proceed from there. Chris, could we have a roll call vote for attendance?
Jonathan Pope.
Here.
Thank you. Ben Lummis.
Here.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Here.
Thank you. Greg Ketamartori. I don't think I saw him. Kathy Clancy.
Here.
Thank you. Donna Compton.
Here.
Thank you. John Dunn. I don't know if I saw him. Nope. Gary Frisch. I don't think I saw him either. Matt Fusco.
Here.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Here.
Thank you. Joe Lucido. I don't think I saw him. Jameson Manning. Don't think I saw him. Amy Pasquarello.
Here.
Thank you. Adam Roselle.
Here.
Thank you. And Katie Eunice.
Here.
Thank you. All set.
Okay, thank you. We have 10 members present, and which is a quorum. And we will proceed to the approval of minutes. And we have the East Gloucester Veterans Memorial Project meeting of minutes of April 8th, 2021. Are there any corrections or omissions? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Chris, could we have a roll call vote?
Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lummis.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
Thank you. Donna Compton.
Yes.
Thank you. Matt Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Amy Pasquarello.
Yes.
Thank you. Adam Roselle.
Yes.
Thank you. And Katie Eunice.
I was not present.
Okay. Abstain. Thank you.
Okay, so it passes 9 in favor and 1 present. And we'll move on to invoices. Do we have?
So we have some invoices to present.
Invoices?
Yep, I can go over them here.
Okay, great.
So the first invoice is from W.T. Rich. This is their standard monthly invoice for $15,412 for pre-construction services. So we'd like to get that approved.
Okay.
I
All right.
move that we approve the W.T. Rich invoice number 202001-05 in the amount of $15,412.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion or any questions? This is just a simple progress payment. Okay. Seeing none.
I missed who seconded. I'm sorry.
That was
Rick.
Ben.
Ben,
Oh,
thank
Ben.
you.
Okay. All right, do we, Chris, could we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lummis.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
Thank you. Donna Compton.
Yes.
Thank you. Matt Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Amy Pasquarello.
Yes.
Thank you. Adam Roselle.
Yes.
Thank you. And Katie Eunice.
Yes.
Thank you. All set.
Okay. And we'll move on to our reports and deliberations.
Oh, we actually have a couple more invoices.
Oh, we have more invoices, sorry.
Yeah, should we do those all together or just one at a time like that
Are they all from the same?
for the votes? No, they're different. So that's why I was doing one.
Yeah, right.
So here's the second invoice. This is Doran Whittier's invoice. So this invoice represents 95% completion of the design development. So when we had submitted it to the MSBA, the design development package already a while back, they're also billing for 100% of the design development for the early release package number 2, which they've been working on, and 20% for construction documents for that package. So that's appropriate to the amount of work that's been complete. There's also some billing here for permitting, $18,849.88. So that's about 25% of their permitting fee. And that is for the MIPA documents and also the Conservation Commission and the height variance, so the work that they've done on that. And then the final thing is the fee for the U.S. Green Building Council for $1,200. So that brings their total invoice to $370,749.88. So we would like to get this approved. This is invoice number 24. Doran Whittier.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve Doran Whittier's invoice number 24 for the amount of $370,000, $749.88. And I so move.
Second.
Okay. And are there any questions or deliberations? Okay. All right, seeing none. Chris, could we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lummis.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
Thank you. Donna Compton.
Yes.
Thank you. Matt Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Amy Pasquarello.
Yes.
Thank you. Adam Roselle.
Yes.
Thank you. And Katie Eunice.
Yes.
Thank you.
It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And do we have any more invoices?
We have one more. This invoice is from CBRE Heary as the OPM. The last invoice was back in November, so about 6 months ago. So this is the invoice for all the work from then to date. This invoice is in the amount of $288,577.75. And the invoice number is 1809300.
Okay.
I'd like to have that.
I'll
I
make a
move-
motion. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I move that we approve the CBRE Heary invoice number 1809300 in the amount of $288,577.75.
Second. Are there any, is there any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none. Chris, could we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lummis.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
Thank you. Donna Compton.
Yes.
Thank you. Matt Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Amy Pasquarello.
Yes.
Thank you. Adam Roselle.
Yes.
Thank you. And Katie Eunice.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And is that it for invoices?
Yes, that's all.
Okay, then let's move on to our deliberations and reports. And we're going to start with the OPM update. You're going to share your screen that you already have. There you go. I'll hand it over
Okay.
to Brian.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to give you a schedule update. So the project continues to be tracked on schedule and on budget. So that's always good. What we have going on right now is we did have a slight delay in getting the comments back from the MSBA from the design development submission. They were about 2 weeks behind schedule, so that did push us out a little bit. But we did get the comments back and they were pretty standard. There really wasn't much there, just standard notes about the progression of the drawings. And the designer is working on putting together responses for those comments. And those should be completed next week. Next week, we also then have a meeting with the MSBA on an update on the design. So those are some activities with the MSBA. The early package number 1, that's for the early site work, the abatement and demolition. W.T. Rich has been handling the bidding of that with the subcontractors and has prepared the package for approval, which we'll be going over a little later in this meeting. So once that's approved, they can move forward with getting that work lined up. And the designer is also working on, as noted previously, the early package number 2. That'll be for the rest of the site work, for the steel and for the concrete. And that's scheduled to be issued for review at the end of this month. We submitted our report to the MSBA yesterday. And right now the designer is also working on the 60% submission for the construction documents. So leading up to the submission. So those documents should be ready for review as of June 1st. We have a school building committee meeting June 10th. And there should be an update on those drawings at that point. And we're going to need to schedule a meeting for June 30th. So normally we would have a meeting on July 8th, but because of the 60% submission to the MSBA that is before that we'll need approval for, and also due to the cost reconciliation that we want to go over, which happens just before the June 30th, we'll need to have this meeting in June. Also, the July 8th meeting falls pretty close to the July 4th holiday. So what we're suggesting is to actually cancel this July 8th meeting and just go with the June 30th meeting. So I don't know if anyone had any comments about the change to that meeting schedule, but this is a meeting that we need. If it's okay to go ahead and scratch that July 8th meeting.
Does anybody have any objections to not meeting on July 8th and meeting on June 30th?
Jonathan, I have
Or is
no
this-
objections, and know that we can always schedule a meeting during July if there's business that needs to be taken care of timely prior to our August meeting.
Okay, so then we'll proceed. So if you could put that on your calendar, so it'll be June 30th instead of July 8th. So that's kind of it for the schedule on the new school project. I'll briefly also go over the schedule on the swing space. So this is an important thing right now. We are tracking on schedule with this as well, but we're in a very active time right now. So the school has been emptied from the excess furnishings. We've been able to go into the building and see if there was any additional repair work that needed to be completed. That repair work is now underway. So we're currently finalizing the renovation scope of work with all the team members. There are a lot of different parties that are coming together to get that work done in a very short period of time. So it is kind of a challenging feat to get all that prepared, but we are tracking on schedule with that as of this time. The other item that's happening right now is that we are in the process of getting bids together for the movers. So we'll be presenting those numbers once we have them. But we hope to have those contracts going out soon. And the other item basically on this schedule is that the staff at the vet school is working diligently to sort through items and purge any unnecessary items in preparation for the move. So the school has done a good job of getting everyone on board and getting them excited about this upcoming move. And I think they're making good progress on that so far. So those are kind of the schedule items for the swing space.
Any questions?
Okay.
Okay. Not seeing any. Brian, you want to continue?
Sure. So the next item on the agenda is just the comments for the MSBA. So I noted those briefly on the schedule. We did receive the comments back. There weren't too many of them, and they were pretty standard items, relative to the design documents and getting those clarified, which is typical as you go through the process. We should have the comments finished. Like I said, I think the end of next week to get those back to the MSBA. So that's pretty much all there is to do, to say about that one. The next thing is the EP1 package. So we did receive that from W.T. Rich, as mentioned earlier. So here you can see that information. So W.T. Rich went out and priced it out to a number of different subcontractors, and then worked with each of the subcontractors to make sure everyone is on the same page, that they're fully familiar with the scope of the work, and they have all the items included in their pricing. And we are happy to see that the pricing came in under the budget item to the tune of $365,590 savings relative to the budget. So this package came in at just a little over 2 million. I think the number is $2,059,890. And again, this is for the early site work and for the abatement and demolition of the building. So we'd like to move forward with this to have a vote to approve this so that W.T. Rich can engage with the subcontractors and get the work scheduled so that they can keep up with their current schedule and start the work in August.
Okay. The question will be, is there, as there is some uncertainty on the city side, certainly not here, but is there out clauses on these contracts, I think was the term.
Yeah, so we've talked with W.T. Rich about various stopping points along the way. So, we can halt the work anytime we need to. And, there will be some overhead costs that get tied into that we'll still have to pay. But we can still move forward with this. That way the project can continue on schedule and they can get everyone lined up. And if for some reason they had to stop, then we could pull the plug and stop the work.
And again, it's important that we do proceed now because there's preliminary work with submittals and materials and procurement that in order to meet the August 1st start date need to take place. But Jonathan Rich has indicated that they're fine with proceeding, authorizing the early work, and then kind of looking to us for a future authorization to continue. Would that be a fair statement, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to authorize them to proceed with submittals only. I think we were going to get a breakout cost for that, but we haven't finalized that. But it will not be big money because it's paperwork, and these guys can pull that together pretty quickly. At some point, the demo guy is pretty straightforward, right? He doesn't have a lot of material costs. So, he's got a little bit more flexibility. At some point in the site work guy, he's got to start ordering
Structures.
pipe and his structures, right? And the structures are custom made, and I think generally take about six weeks or so, 6 to 8 weeks. So those submittals will come in, and then we'll be at some point, so we'll be looking to proceed with those as well. So I tell you, we'll get a schedule from these guys of the submittal costs, the structure material costs, and we'll get some drop, so have the costs, and we'll get some drop dead dates for, like, this is when we need to decide on the release of the structures, for example.
I do want to thank you, John, for explaining that. I do want to just back up a couple steps here, because Brian, the way you didn't intend to do this, okay? The way you described it made it seem pretty matter of fact. And let's be clear about this. If for any reason there's a delay, whether it's materials or bidding or any other reason, of course we can stop, you're right, as you said, but there are real ramifications, because this is a very tight schedule, as all building projects like this are, okay? You know, we start missing deadlines for whatever reason, you know, internal, you know, our own reasons, external reasons. This project starts getting delayed very quickly, you know, windows start closing, delays start happening, and with delays comes escalation. So I just think we just all really want to be clear that, you know, just like what a tight timeline any project like this is, and this one is too, you know. And so Brian, you weren't trying to diminish anything. I'm not.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that's very important to point out. I mean, in order for this project to stay on budget and on schedule, the project needs to continue moving forward. But all I was saying is, if for some reason, you know, no one's anticipating this, but if for some reason the project just totally stopped, you could of course stop the work. Right. But the other thing, like John mentioned, you know, the submittal work, I mean, it's just a matter of getting the paperwork together. There's some overhead costs, you know, with staffing and things like that. But most of the work is, you know, it's going to be done on the site. Most of the dollar amount has to do with the demolition abatement. That's not scheduled until August. So really the only other costs that could be incurred would be the ordering of certain materials. But relative to the overall cost, that's not a significant amount. And it far outweighs the risk of delaying the project and not moving forward. So
I only brought it up for the community to understand that we're not tearing down the school tomorrow. Yep. And our charge as a building committee is to build the school, and it is not in our purview to stop this project. If this project is going to be delayed or stopped, that information is going to, that directive is going to come from someplace other than, actually, it can only come from the administration. So just to be clear, it's not our choice. We are moving full steam ahead to get this building done and built, okay?
And again, just to reinforce what Superintendent said, the impact costs associated with a delay are going to become large and material fairly quickly. So it's important that we do everything we can to move quickly with this approved project as, you know, responsibly as we can. We're here to work with you and support you, but we absolutely believe that the project can only be done with the approved funds if we get it done within the current approved schedule. Just so that the public hears their OPM on your behalf, you know, in kind of plain language, reinforce exactly what Superintendent Lummis said.
Thank you, Mark. It's really clear, you know, that everybody wants us to be, and we've been saying again, on time and, you know, on budget, and any delay gets us off that immediately, you know. And just to put a fine point on it, the consequences of those costs get into hundreds of thousands of dollars by day and millions pretty quickly. You know, this is not some small little piece here for any delay. So I know this building committee will do everything it possibly can to keep us on schedule, and this project team on schedule and on budget. And we need to make sure we continue to get the support of other folks too.
Great. So can we get a?
I have a question. So when we go through, like, first of all, let me just say, like, I fully support, right, being able to go and get this thing rolling right? Because of all the things that have been discussed. But I just like to have a sense maybe of, what the exposure is here in terms of, going through it, doing the submittal process, and then, what do we have for a drop dead date, right? In terms of, okay, now we have to go and, start ordering things, et cetera, et cetera. And so we've had a chance, right? This is the final form of this is pretty fresh. We have reviewed it. I've gone through all of the leveling sheets and all of that. We had some comments that were exchanged, I think, as recently today. I didn't know we were actually taking a vote on this tonight, but it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't really scare me, but I'd like to know what that kind of exposure limit and time frame is, just so that we have a sense of that. And I don't know, John, if you have a sense of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the submittals, we'd like to get the subs going on the submittals in the next week or so, and then we'd like to also give you the dates for the material costs for the structures and things like that. That's the main material cost. So I think we just have to sort that out with our subs in the next couple of days, and then deal with the team and make sure everyone's comfortable with that.
Right, because I just don't want, right, again, I fully support this in terms of supporting the schedule. And I just want to make sure that we know kind of what we go out, we march down the road, we start doing submittals for, X weeks, what we're just going to call paperwork for now. And, we do that for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and, the exposure there is maybe like $100,000 or whatever it is. And then after that point in time, it's like, okay, in order to avoid, further schedule delay or breakages or whatever those things are, the owner needs to be able to make a decision by then. Otherwise, right, the meter starts running at a different level.
Yeah, and yeah, one thing to keep in mind, though, there's a big difference between a project getting, delayed a couple months versus, something really, getting pushed off for a year, or because, if we were to order those structures and start a couple months later, it wouldn't be a lost cost. It would just affect the schedule. Like, we'd still use the structures that showed up on site, but we might not be able to start couple months later, right? And there's some things that are in that category, provided the design doesn't change. So yeah, but I think we will go through. We owe you guys kind of laying all that out. I apologize, we didn't realize that was going to come up, but this was on the agenda for this package to get approved. In fact, we pushed it back. I think one time we said it would be okay if we moved it back a little bit, and it gave us some more time to bid. But now is the time we were, wanted to start approving that. So, I don't know if someone wants to see that schedule of the values and the deadlines and what the exposures are before we start going forward. But maybe the building committee can empower, a couple of the team members that come to our regular meetings to make sure that everyone's comfortable with those type of exposures.
I would fully support that.
I think, as Jonathan Pope mentioned earlier, our directive is to manage this project and to make sure that the school gets delivered on time and on budget. So while there are some other things that are going on, I think it's important to keep that in mind and, keep the project moving along under those directives. So I think we're doing that. And I think with these additional steps of looking at the last minute deadlines for certain notifications, I think we're doing the best we possibly can to manage any additional risk. But at the same time, as has already been noted, there's significant risks associated with delays, whether it's because you're waiting on something or because the schedule changes and now you're dealing with winter conditions. and additional costs associated with those items, as well as material costs going up and the like. There really are quite a few factors that come together with that. So I think it's just important to consideration, but ultimately to focus on what our directive is, to keep this project moving forward on schedule and on budget until someone says otherwise.
And again, just to kind of reinforce that, I would suggest that the building committee vote, and my recommendation would be to approve the package, but also understand that along with that approval, your team will move forward and address the sequencing, the cash flow, and the financial consequences. But none of those are helped by delaying the approval. Those are things we can responsibly do to manage, which is already, we're already under budget on this, and we want to keep it that way. But I would suggest that you vote to approve it, and look to your professional team to manage it, including tightly managing and understanding the cost implications as we implement it. And Jonathan laid out a plan where before too much longer, he can have a schedule that'll show the activities and, to the extent he's able to, the costs associated with approving those activities.
I had a quick question. As a builder myself, I've been experiencing some real fluctuations in material costs. I'm sure you gentlemen are aware of that phenomenon. These material costs that are going out to bid, or these subcontractors that are going out to bid, are these based on 6 months ago? Are these based on these numbers that we're kind of plugging in, or are these just out in space and we're going to be finding out as they come in if we are actually under budget?
These numbers here are quotes we receive for the work that's in the scope of early package one. Is that what your question is?
Yeah, actual quotes.
Yep. Ready, negotiated, squeezed the last penny out of them, descoped them, really got the best negotiated price down as best we could. And, these are the ones we're ready. When you guys give us the go ahead, we're going to give an award, but we are going to structure those tiers with them. That'll be the last thing we do to structure that, the submittals versus the materials versus the actual start on site.
Yeah, supply chains and costs have been just a real challenge. So
yeah, that's kind of a whole nother topic that they're really, prices have been really high. We've been keeping a close track on that. Steel, aluminum, lumber, a lot of other things, but 15, 20, 30, 40% increase in some of those lumber. Some types of lumber have doubled in cost. So it's this next estimate, you're giving a little sneak preview. This next estimate's going to be really critical because the subs are, they're aware of the current changes, and we get a lot of sub quotes when we put together our next estimate for the full scope of work. And we'll be asking the subs to give us their quotes based on the latest escalation, and where we were feeling pretty good and rosy with our last estimate, and we didn't have to do a lot of value engineering. I wouldn't be surprised if this escalation takes a toll on that. And we're going to have to see where people come in. And but there was a little time where it was like, okay, it was COVID, people were very aggressive, then a lot of jobs were coming in under budget. It's weird, the subs are still pretty hungry for the work, but the material increases and transportation costs are really crazy. And by the way, the lead times are going through the roof as well on certain types of items. So, it's going to make it a fun and challenging project, but
I do think the procurement schedule helps, though. You'll have these early packages, which will be periodic checks like along the way. And,
Yep.
You'll lock in these packages and where they came in, and then that will help you, project the future budget. kind of
The steel one will be really good, right? That's one of the first ones in the next early package. We get the whole structural steel site work. They do have some material piping and costs and stuff like that. So that's a good point, Brian. That helps us hedge some of this.
Excellent.
Okay, are there any other questions before we make a motion? Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion that we authorize, I believe this, are we going to authorize CBRE Harry or WT Rich?
WT Rich to award these packages.
Okay, so we're going to,
I think it's really authorizing, someone needs to execute the contract amendment
okay,
for this. And so I think you're authorizing someone, whether that's Donna or John Dunn or someone like that, but someone to actually execute this contract amendment.
okay, well, I think if we just vote to approve it, that the appropriate person can authorize it if the building committee has signed off on it.
Yep.
If it was MSBA asking for a vote, we would be very careful about what we said, but I think we're good here. So I'll make a motion that we authorize WT Rich to release the early bid award, EP1 site prep, and enabling demolition and abatement bid package. And I so move.
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Jonathan, John Dunn here. I'm sorry, my camera does not seem to be working, so you can't see my very handsome face. What I would like to be able to do, and I agree that we should move forward, but I also think that we're going to have to come up with, somewhat of a, hard cash flow on the project through the next, let's say, 5 months. I hate to think that we're going to have to, eventually say no to the project or put a stop sign up, but that certainly could be the case. So, I'm going to be asked what we have committed to, and what the approximate cash flow is going to be month to month for the next 5 to 6 months. And that's going to go into, we're going to have to settle everybody down. But we also need to be, truthful with ourselves and with those people who are asking questions, what we're really committed to.
And again, we should definitely be able to do that. We actually do have a project cash flow that we submit to MSBA on a monthly basis. What we will do is, working with the team, both Jonathan Rich and Brad Dorr, to sort of reaffirm the numbers we're carrying for their portions of the work. And again, we can give you something that should be pretty reasonably accurate for that type of a duration.
Right, well, that's great, Mark. I guess, and I, I could have missed it, being knee deep in the budget at this time of year, but have you been sending me those cash flow numbers or reports that you're sending to MSBA?
They're available to you, but I don't know that they've been specifically sent to you, but we can send you a copy separately of the cash flow attachment that goes to MSBA, so you can see how, you'll see two things. You'll see what's actual, which you should know because you're paying the bills, but you can also see where things are projecting. Now, let me just point out that one of the challenges with the cash flow is we have some reasonably sizable contingencies. The owner contingency and the construction contingency, which are in the millions of dollars. There's almost no way to accurately predict when we're going to spend that money. So what many folks do is they just take the total contingency, divide it by the total monthly duration of the project, and apply that amount. That becomes the cash flow curve. And then you can see on a month-to-month basis how we're actually tracking. We will take the FF&E dollars, which are also significant, and we know that those invoices will be come in and paid, the summer and shortly after the summer that the school occupies. So we do, try to tailor the cash flow to when we understand the expenses will be made, and contingencies the wild card.
And thank you, Mark. And yes, I think most of us are fairly experienced with cash flows. As the financial firms say, past performance is not indicative of future performance. So, but there's going to be a number of people who are going to ask, or who have already asked, and we're going to have to be able to respond reasonably to what the range of cash flow needs are going to be over the next half a year. Again, we have this litigation going on. As long as there's litigation out there, we can't sign the project funding agreement with MSBA. That's problematic.
And I just think also, right, I just want to make sure that you understand the distinction, because I think this is what you're speaking to in part, John, the distinction between just cash flow and exposure, right?
Yes, but they are combined. So cash flow is certainly important, but exposure is just as important. So the fact that I'm not sending out a check next week for $500,000, that's relevant. But it's also relevant that that same $500,000 check may have to go out 2 months from now because we committed to it. So yes.
Right. And it's like, if you had to, and I do not think this should be the case, or will be the case, but if you had to pump the brakes, what is that exposure? That's the point that I was driving at earlier.
Yes.
So yeah, we will have that cash flow, as Mark mentioned. We do have those numbers. I was just looking for some updated information from the designer and from the contractor, and then send it all to you at once, because there have been some changes with that. So I will get that to you, John.
All right, thank you, Brian.
Okay, is there any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to authorize W.T. Rich to release the early bid EP1. Okay. Being none, Chris, could we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lummis.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
Thank you. Donna Compton.
Yes.
Thank you. John Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you. Matt Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Amy Pasquarello.
Yes.
Thank you. Adam Roselle.
Yes.
Thank you. And Katie Eunice.
Yes.
Thank you. All set.
Thank you very much. It passes unanimously. We will move on.
We have some more items here.
Like,
Yeah, the next item was just I think we'll just touch on this briefly, given that, we still have some other things to do in executive session later on. And this is not urgent, but we did want to talk about the change order process, once we get construction started. I think Mark was going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And, maybe some parameters that we could set or start thinking about setting going forward on the project.
So again, we have time to work this out, but many communities handle this in a different fashion, and it's a pretty wide range of approaches that I've seen. But the fact of the matter is that there will be change orders during our construction process. That's in good part why we have the contingencies identified that are identified. We fully expect to be able to complete the project within those contingency amounts. Now, That being said, the thing about change orders is in the field, the guidance needs to be given to the contractor in a way that we can limit the change to the direct cost of the work and not have to have a lengthy process that's going to add risk and exposure for any delay costs. The delay costs oftentimes dwarf the actual direct costs. So I think on your West Parish project, you had a process where the OPM was authorized or was given authorization to approve and direct the builder to move forward with change orders up to a certain limit. That is a common practice. It's also a common practice that if people are uncomfortable with that, that there's a change order subcommittee. The issue with a subcommittee being involved is that they need to be willing to participate to get an understanding of the scope, you know, because I mean, your OPM team's on the job day in and day out. So we're familiar with what's going on in the details, which is often an important ingredient to being able to determine the validity and the proper cost of the change. So they would need to be willing to participate and have conversations and be engaged so that they could make an informed, you know, approval or disapproval based upon the OPM's recommendation. So again, we're not looking to, you know, to formulate a process this evening, but sometime probably by the end of the summer, we will need an understandable, you know, documented outline of a process so your OPM knows exactly what, you know, responsibility and authority rests where, so that we can do it in a way that, you know, reduces your exposure.
Thank you, Mark. Could you, for the clarification of people who haven't been on building committees before, just give an example of the type of change order that may come up that would might halt work or slow down work and need a quick determination?
So a typical one that happens early on in a project is, for instance, you know, we do borings, you know, so we get a little bit of an idea of what's in the ground, but nobody has X-ray vision. Nobody knows for sure what's in the ground. So if we were to find what's called unsuitable materials, material that's like either clay or organics, that has to be removed and replaced with granular material that'll support the building. And you know, you can't have the builder sitting around, you know, with an idle excavator waiting too long to be told that that's the right thing to do, because it is the right thing to do, and it's going to cost money, but it needs to be decided quickly. So that's one that's fairly common. And then there'll be things where, you know, like because you do early packages, we get a huge advantage in schedule. You know, you're saving almost a year in your overall schedule to a design bid build approach. But so when the packages are bought out, they don't have the benefit of having the final details and design. So there'll be things that are not 100% coordinated. So there'll be things that change in the final design that have an impact on work that was already bought out, say in the steel contract, or like an example would be if we actually approve and build an HVAC unit that goes on the roof that's a certain size that differs a little bit than what was originally anticipated, then the framing of the duct openings into the building might change. So there'll be some additional steel that's necessary. Those are a couple off the top of my head quickly that I can think of, and there's tons of others, but those are fairly common.
Thank you, Mark. John, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I guess if I could ask if the the OPM, the design team, and the contractor can make a recommendation to us for our next meeting as to what the upper limit for change order approvals would be, sitting with the OPM, what a limit would be for maybe a subgroup of the school building committee, 3, 4, 5 people who could, reasonably meet pretty quickly when necessary. And then, anything over that has to come back to the full school building committee. So if we could just think about that in terms of what this project is, and what the overall budget is for the project, what might be recommendations from our consultants.
Okay,
We can do that.
good.
And generally, the smaller changes are going to be the ones that need to move forward quickly. Generally, if there's going to be a big dollar change, it's going to be something that's more involved, that takes more time anyway. So those are less critical. It's the smaller ones where the project just needs to keep moving. Those are really the key items.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, are there any other questions about that? That will be put off until our next meeting for any kind of decision. Let's see, do you have anything we're going to move on to the designer update. Other than you're just moving along, Brad, I assume there's not much to talk about.
No, not really. We continue to move forward towards finalizing 60%. We received, I think as people are aware, comments back from MSBA on the DD set. They were nothing, of concern really there, follow-up type items. So, yep, keep pushing right along.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
Brad or Michelle, is there a need, or are we scheduling any of the subcommittees, exterior or interior, in the near future? Or do we
Yeah.
what we need?
Yes, thank you for asking. So we have the exterior subcommittee we'd like to bring back to talk about the playground work. And I don't know if there's anybody additional that might be added to the playground equipment review. Somebody, usually we see somebody from either Park and Rec adding their comments to our review, or somebody from the PE department to talk about, the appropriate equipment for different age groups. And we'd also like to have a subcommittee to come back together for lead. We had a very early lead subcommittee group, and we'd like to bring them together just to talk about our lead updates and the points that we are showing and the direction that we're going to achieve gold. So those two subcommittees we'd like to bring together. I'd like to be able to send out invitations for those, perhaps maybe next week or the week after that.
Matt and Amy, in terms of the physical education, for the playground equipment, it'd be great to have a couple of folks from your staff, whoever you feel is most appropriate or knowledgeable. I'd be happy to help, but I have no knowledge of this, would not be helpful.
I would like to have either one or both of the PE teachers, but also maybe the Sarah Player, our PT.
Perfect.
Therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Great.
Matt and Amy, can you get that contact information to Michelle, please?
You just need the names?
And then-
Names and contact information, please.
Yep.
And what I'll do is I'll send out a couple of dates where we can begin to have that discussion.
Sure.
Sure.
And if you can give those three folks a heads up. And then Michelle, this is, May and June are nutty times in schools, really super crazy busy. And you have the vets folks, added thing of purging and packing. So the more lead time you can give, the much better on this, please. So just to understand that, unlike some of us, these folks it's hard for them to turn around a meeting really quickly.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm asking now, so that we can begin to have a meeting. They'll probably go on for the next 2 months or through, to maybe till September. But the earlier we can begin to have these conversations, the better off we'll be.
Right. Okay.
And then
Those are periodic meetings, correct? Not like every week?
that's correct.
Okay. They'll want to know that too.
Yes.
Great.
I'll put together the agendas for the information that we need to discuss. And what will happen is we'll have the meeting, we'll go out, get information, we'll bring it back, we'll have another meeting. And that will occur a few times.
Okay.
And then the other one was the lead, the
Right.
group of lead. So I believe Kathy, Jonathan, and Rich, you were all in part of our original lead conversations with the green engineer.
Right.
I don't know if you want to participate in the next round or if there's other people who are.
I would like to see somebody from, hopefully Joe Lucido, from the building department involved.
Brian, can you stop sharing your screen for a moment, just while we're having?
Oh, sorry, sure. Yep.
No, thank you. So Joe, I think that's a good idea. We can volunteer him.
We'll volunteer him, see if he shows up. I mean, I have some knowledge. I'm happy to do it again. I don't know about Kathy or Ben.
Okay, that might just be 2 or 3 meetings right now. We're just talking about the different points that that we're going to need, to achieve the goal and get a little bit above gold, so that that there's a few points there that we can give away, and whether or not you the different ways that we can implement the energy efficiency for that.
So folks who have experience or interest can raise hands or acknowledge your interest.
Okay.
If I can fit it in, I will try to participate.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
And you can count on me as a backup if Greg can't.
You're the backup to the backup, is that right?
He's supposed to be a regular.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Else?
If anybody else wants to, and let me know, and I will pass that on to Michelle.
Great. Thank you, folks.
Okay.
Great. So you're going to
Um,
send me, Jonathan, you're going to send me the final list, and
Yeah.
Amy and Matt will send me a list. Perfect.
I will just, I will, rather than volunteer Joe, I will actually talk to him before I put his name on a piece of
Okay.
paper.
Thank you, Jonathan. That's getting a little punchy here on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
we're only halfway there. So CM update, Jonathan Rich, you have anything to tell us besides?
Yeah, actually, I get kind of a question, and I apologize if I'm confused on this. It's to Brian Ramadka, but Brian, were we going to approve the St. Anne's Amendment A at this meeting? I don't think it was in the package, but if not,
no,
if not, I
because
guess the
that's
question
not-
is, if not now, when, I guess is the question.
Yeah, so that's not part of the school committee funds. That's from a separate item.
Right.
So who, I just wondered how that gets approved then from, is that just like John Dunn and has authority over that?
Yes.
Yes.
Nice. Okay. So that was my main thing. And then Brian was going to just kind of talk about a couple other things quickly about what we're up to.
So just to elaborate.
Here's my blue pen scepter, John.
That's all we need.
Sorry, just elaborate on that exchange. Everyone's in the loop, and you may need a reminder on this is the additional dollars that were allocated outside of the, I think the loan order, the $4+ million that's for St. Anne's, the swing space, for building fields, and also for rebuilding East Gloucester, the East Gloucester site. So, John, I'm correct in saying that?
Yes, you are.
Great. Okay, just so folks, just to make sure everyone's clear on. There's just not some random pot of funds out there we're talking about. It's the same one we've been talking about every time.
Ben, we don't have random pots of funds.
I know that. I want to make it clear to everyone else. And the
Gotta go to
public.
the end of the rainbow, find that.
Anything else, Jonathan?
Brian, you want to give a quick update on our upcoming activities?
Yep. Yeah, no. So now that we got approval for EP2, we'll get our ducks in a row and we can start our, pre-planning, submittals and procurement, and kind of communicating the upcoming schedule and logistics of the town. And we're on track for that August 1st mobilization, where we'll get the the site set up with the perimeter fence and erosion controls, trailers, temporary power, and then we'll proceed with our site demo and building demolition and abatement, and get our temp drainage set up so we can start off the project on a good foot. And then kind of meanwhile, EP2 is due to us out in kind of late July. So in the meantime, we're going to get the design documents for 60% CDs and the EP2 package. So we'll do a thorough review of that and get design review comments back, and really make sure that the EP2 scope is tight and well coordinated for what we need. So that'll be the next big milestone, I'm sure, that we vote on for a significant package approval, and that'll be, I believe, early September, September 9th or so. That's really the gist of it.
Any questions? Okay, then we'll move on to communications, Ben.
Sure. Let me just share. So we're having our next public forum meeting. This one is focused on the sorry, here 1 second, trying to see if I can share something here, having some problems. This one, here it is, will be is focused on the neighborhood, and specifically on introducing the neighborhood to the construction timeline and process. I'll let John Rich describe a few things he will be, his team, will be sharing, but I want to just show you the flyer we sent out to neighbors within about a quarter mile of the project site. 1 second here. And then I think people can see that. So that went out by US mail. Has a link to the actual virtual meeting and also a link to our product site, and the QR code goes to product site as well. Do need some help from our communications group on continuing outreach on this. The city councils for that ward, Mr. Memhart and Mr. Pett, have a copy of this, and we hope they're distributing to their constituents. But could use a little help from Grant or KT or Kathy on two things: updating our product website, but also getting stuff out on social media ASAP to like tomorrow.
Not a problem.
Great. I will send you
The website is done too, Ben. The
Oh,
information is there.
Okay. And does it have the link on?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Super. Great. Okay. So then, Jonathan, Rich, if you could help us understand just some of the topics that we will be discussing.
Sure. It's a pretty simple structure in the presentation. There's going to be sort of three main sections. The first one's going to be on schedule, and we're really going to let them know, when are things going to start? When are they going to start seeing activity out there? What will that look like? What's kind of the big picture duration of the schedule, and when is it all going to be done and completed? So that's fairly short. The second is on logistics. Brian's worked a lot on that, and he's going to deliver that part. But that part is all about what's the site, how is it going to be configured, how are construction trucks going to enter and leave the site, what are the limits of the work, what are the other things that might impact or people living near there might want to be aware of. I'm sure they're going to want to know, those parking spaces on the street, how long are they going to be around for? And we do leave them in place for a little while before we take them over. So it's going to be all that type of thing. Try to focus. There's a lot going on inside the site we'll share, but we'll try to focus on the impacts around the site so people are aware of that. And then the third thing is communication. So basically, if someone wants to know about the project, or they have a question, or heaven forbid, they have a complaint, how do they do that? And I do want to talk to Mark and Brian, because usually that goes through the OPM, and you guys might have an email address or a phone number or something, but we should talk about how you want to deal with that. And we do have a hot 24/7 hotline number for WT Rich as well. So anyway, that'll be the basic structure of it. My experience with these is keep that relatively short. I think is there going to be a design update too, Ben? You said you're going to do that, right? Very quick.
Yeah, no, actually, yes, there will be a design update to start, just so people sort of see how great the building looks and what it's going to be like. But then we'll have Amy and Matt Fusco, principal, do a abbreviated version of what we've done in the past.
Right. And then, really it'll just be opening up to questions, and depends on the group, depends on the, if we have the litigants there trying to voice things, but I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions. But generally, that issue aside, generally the neighbors are concerned. They have a lot of questions about safety and things like that. We'll be talking about that a lot during logistics as well. So the kind of the back end would just free form. Are we gonna have a mechanism like hand raise or something like that for just, so it's not a total.
We'll use the same mechanism that we use at school committee meetings. Maria set that up for us. So the hosts, myself, and really probably myself and Maria will be able to elevate people to be able to speak.
Yes.
And we'll give them a limited amount of time so they can raise their question, and then we can make sure we get to as many questions as possible.
Great.
Okay. Anything else on communications, Ben, Kathy?
Just that our team keeps on updating the website. So so the summary from this meeting will be put up, the next couple of days, along with the meeting documents and presentation. That's very, very helpful, and I appreciate the team's work on that, because it's really got us going pretty smoothly now.
Okay,
John
John?
has a question.
Yeah, Ben, can you and I have maybe a discussion tomorrow morning? So Scott Memhard has a medical issue going on, so I'm not sure about what his status might be. So I think, we probably kind of want to reach out to him and maybe maybe the city council president to see, if Scott can't make it to this meeting, should somebody else be there?
Jonathan, I know you've reached out to this, at least made sure the city council is informed. Can you add anything to that? Yes, first of all, John, that makes sense.
The city council has all received invitations. But I haven't specifically talked to anybody about it tonight, but we'll be seeing them all very soon at 7 o'clock. And I can bring it up.
John, does that fit what you asked, or did I miss the point
No,
there?
no, that's the point. I'm just not sure about Scott Memhard's status.
Right, I understand it. Yep.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, and I'll share the flyer with the city council tonight as well. So
All right, good.
they'll get it in living color.
All right, perfect.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, is there anything else we want to bring up before we go into executive session? Okay, seeing none. We're going to be going into executive session to update the building committee on the current state of the MSBA's reluctance to sign the agreement, as well as the update on the lawsuit. So we'll be going into executive session. We need to make a motion to meet in executive session to discuss ongoing litigation regarding the East Gloucester Veterans Memorial Elementary School pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, as an open meeting may have detrimental effects on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and to remain in open session and to return into open session only to adjourn. And I so move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have a roll call vote, Chris?
Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lummis.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Yes.
Thank you. Greg Kettermore-Torrey.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
Thank you. Donna Compton.
Yes.
Thank you. John Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you. Matt Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Amy Pasquarello.
Yes.
Thank you. Adam Roselle.
Yes.
Thank you. And Katie Eunice.
Yes.
Thank you. Jonathan, you're muted.
So everybody's on the same page. You leave this meeting and you go to the Google Meets meeting that was sent out alongside this and join that meeting. So, I'll explain the conditions of the executive session once we're there. So leave this meeting completely and go to the Google Meets meeting. Okay, I'll see you all there. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, Chris, roll call vote.
Sorry, that was Kathy, then Ben.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lummis.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Yes.
Thank you. Greg Carter-Matori.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
Thank you. Donna Compton.
Yeah.
Thank you. John Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you. Matthew Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Amy Pasquarello.
Yes.
Thank you. And Katie Yunus.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you all soon, some sooner than others.